Every 9 minutes, Child Protective Services substantiates or finds evidence for a claim of sexual abuse. Number one most likely person to sexually assault a child is someone that that child already knows. In fact, it's a staggering 59% of acquaintances, 34% family, and only 7% strangers. The easiest target for a trafficker are children who've already been sexually assaulted because they're vulnerable. Typically, they identify individuals who are vulnerable and who have a need. So it's the perfect scenario for them. A child who's already been assaulted is just an easy target.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? And
yes.
It's quite staggering. The statistics are I find them really shocking. It's actually quite hard to believe that that isn't the height of it either. That's just the tip of the iceberg. That's what you've spoken to me about this before, that this is just what this is just the people that are coming forward. So there's a whole ream of people that aren't even coming forward. And I remember a conversation we had last year at the last summit. You'll have to remind me because I'm going to get this the wrong way round. But ordering a child is as easy as ordering a pizza. It was something like that.
That's actually a quote that I heard watching. The man's face was blurred, but he was a buyer. He was in jail and he was being interviewed and filmed. And that was what he said on tape.
Wow.
It's so true. And it's increasing. COVID has only made it worse. The fact that children now have their own phones, many of them laptops at school, very simple for the predators to get them. And sadly, what parents don't understand is when they are posting about their children online, predators are watching. Many children, their parents are a really unfortunate aid to them because they post pictures of Susie at her birthday at the pizza place.
I guess
they begin to find out. It's so simple.
When you're when you're not in that field, when you don't have any understanding of it, because there's very little education around human trafficking. I think it's people don't speak about it, which I find bizarre given the numbers. You just don't know what to look for. You're not educated. You don't know what to look for. You don't know what the signs are. You don't know how these people, how sneakily these people operate. It's just not, it's like you can't comprehend it.
Yes, and there are some definite signs. I mean, when you see, and this is just one of many things you can be looking for, but when you see an older man with a younger girl and she's looking down and she won't look you in the face, that girl is 99% chance she's being trafficked. This is something that we just walk right past it. We don't see it. It's everywhere. Hotels, someone that I knew from a group I was in saw all these big boxes of shoes and clothing going upstairs, and she knew there was a 2-year-old up there as well, and it just didn't seem quite right. This is the kind of stuff, but there's so much more. In fact, here's an interesting little tidbit. When a trafficker is looking for his next victim, and he sees 3 girls on the street, and he says, "Your shoes are untied." The girl who looks down at her shoes is the one he will pick.
Wow.
They train each other, they groom each other, and they seek the vulnerable. They know it by girls who have lower self-esteem, and unfortunately, boys are also very misleading. People don't talk about it, but boys are also being trafficked for sex.
Yeah, but you're right. Boys aren't. It's always the girls, I think, that are mainly focused in. Why do you think that is?
I think there's 2 really huge reasons. One, there's a whole lot more girls being trafficked, and it's the most obvious. And two, there's a lot more shame in a boy slash young man that he's been trafficked. It causes them severe mental issues. Not that it doesn't hurt girls. I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form. And within each group, you're going to have some people that are more vulnerable than other people, who are able to endure more than other people. And so I think it just has a lot to do with what shame of it and the lack of awareness that it is as prevalent as it is, because there are so many more girls, high majority of women and children, female children, that are the ones that are trafficked.
Jo, I know you work for a trafficking organization. You sit on a panel. Tell us a little bit about your organization.
I am on the board of SAFE, and what we are focused on is long-term holistic aftercare. And our desire is to provide survivors with more than just 6 months or a year of trying to heal. We want to work on helping them to heal, but we want them to have an education. We want them to be able to go on have a career. We try to emphasize medical, and I'm also pushing for things like lawyers, because those are two areas that if we can get people into that is going to really, really help with other survivors. But we don't stop there. We want to be ongoing for them. They may need us just to check in every year. They may need us every 3 months. They may need us they may be not leaving us. Whatever their need is, that's what we want, because we have to address each of them as individuals.
Yeah, mentoring, ongoing mentoring is, for me personally, with my experiences, it's been the best thing. Ongoing mentoring, just that person, you know, who's got your back, who's been there, who's experienced something similar. It makes such a difference, such a difference. Well, I thank you for the work that you do and the ongoing work I know that you do. So in the context of child trafficking, trauma, what's the impact on an individual's self-esteem and self-worth? You touched on it a little bit, but I feel like it's such a complicated subject, because when you've been through those experiences, you don't realize how damaged yourself and self-esteem and self-worth is, and your confidence. So in this context, how do you see it?
When an individual is assaulted, they are having their ability to feel safe, their adrenals, their brain, everything goes into hyperactivity. They are trying to survive. They go into survival mode. Fear becomes normal, PTSD, all of this, even the fact that they have physical damage to their bodies, keeps them in a position of not feeling that they will ever be okay. What does that do to the psyche? Well, consider this. There are girls out there that they're being trafficked, have to make a certain amount of money every day. They are seeing a couple of dozen guys per day. Their bodies, their minds, they are just in survival mode. Now, take that person out of there. The fact is that it is a very normal thing for a girl or boy who's been trafficked to go back into trafficking around 8 times. That's like the average time that they'll go back into it, because we have neurological freeways, and we know what we know, but we don't know what we don't know. And many of these, the average age of going into trafficking is 12 to 14. I say average, I want to emphasize that means much lower and much higher. So when they go into that, they haven't had a normal life yet. They don't know, they've never been to a prom. They don't know what it's like to get in a fight with someone at school. They don't know any of them. They don't know how to go. Never been to a football game. They don't know any of those things. So can you put them back in the world? You can't, because they don't even know, they have no idea what normal is. And for them, normal is terrifying every single day. So their psyche is just been trashed. They've been wounded deeply.
And there's the people that gets the support who we know about, which is very challenging for. There's a whole group of people that actually have had no support, no help in society, struggling, not understanding what has happened. I heard a statistic the other day. I was watching a documentary, and I don't know if you've heard this, Joe. What do you think? They were saying that when a child is in that situation, I don't know how to word this, but they'll be in that situation for about 2 years, and then it's done, because the damage is so extreme to the child that it's like a breaking point. Have you heard that?
Are you talking about their mental capacity?
Yeah, the mental capacity.
Their spirit is broken.
Yeah. So
well, that's part of the reason it's so hard for them to come back.
Right.
They try to get any victim out, of course, naturally as fast as they can. Their number one most thing is and sometimes the actual victims get free on their own, and that's a whole nother wonderful thing that can happen for them if they can get away. But when they are rescued, they still have to want to be rescued, understand what rescued means.
Yeah, which they won't.
Then they have the fear that they're going to come and get them, because remember, they are a merchandise.
Yeah.
A trafficker has put money and time into his, what do you call them?
It's really difficult to stable. Struggling to find the words myself. Yeah.
Well, they call them a stable, and so when he loses, and sometimes it's a female trafficker, it's not all men. He wants it back because that's his property, and he wants to make the money. He's losing money every hour that they're gone. So they will, and they have some very strong ideas about, if you're not going to be with me, then you're not going to be with anybody, and they will seek to kill. It depends. There's different types of pimps, and they have different ways of approaching their girls.
Okay. Thank you for the insight. I know this subject is really heavy, and I'm trying the best way I can to know how to formulate words. So I apologize if anyone's listening and it's not coming out the way it should do. It's just because my brain is trying to process what I'm hearing, which I guess is what happens when we talk about these subjects and why they're so challenging to talk about. So thanks for sharing that, Joe. I really appreciate it. Now, I know your story because your story is in a book that we both wrote together. And I wanted to ask, from your own personal experiences, how has the impact of the trauma that you've experienced later on in life impacted on your self-esteem and your confidence? How did it play out? How did it show up?
Well, I'm going to play this backwards because I think that it's important. I got into the anti-human trafficking movement because I knew it could have been me, and it wasn't. I was groomed. I was vulnerable. I was not who I was meant to be because I'd had it taken away from me. My innocence, my self-esteem was damaged at a very young age. How it played out was I continued to get myself in front of people who were not safe, who did not respect me, who did not care for anything except for how I would benefit them, or the thrill of keeping me down. It wasn't until I'm a fighter. Tom's such a fighter. I wasn't gonna, I rise back up and get knocked down and rise back up and get knocked down. But it wasn't until I really did the healing work that I became the best version of myself. I continue to work on that. And that process took a lot of mindset work. It took a lot of my getting into my own heart and realizing that God doesn't make junk, and therefore I'm not junk, and therefore I'm not bad, and that I could not only heal, but that I could be there for other people and help them through their pain and their need for healing. And sometimes all it is saying, wow, that must be hard. It's validation.
Yeah.
Because we're not given that so often. And I know I wasn't. I was literally 100% told, you're not talking about it. I don't want to hear it. You deserved what happened to you. Well, that's baloney. It isn't true. Nobody deserves to be treated badly, ever.
That's the beauty of mentoring. No, I think that's where we get that deep compassion, that deep empathy from, which also allows us to heal at the same time. I've learned so much from the people that I'm working with. You know, if the truth be known, you know, deep down, I really want to do this summit because it's important. But also there's another part of me that knows, gets excited, because I know I can learn more about self-esteem and self-worth and how that impacts other people, which means if I get a new perspective, it'll help me heal and recover. You know,
yes,
that's the beautiful thing about mentoring and giving back and supporting people.
part of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. We know it. We know what to look for. We know what we're dealing with, and yeah, not so many people do. Jo, you touched on mindset a little bit. I know you have an exercise that will help people to manage their mindset. Can you talk me through that a little bit so we get an idea?
I think the number one most important thing that any person who has been in any form of assault or abuse must face. Yes, it's great to focus on physical healing, for heaven's sakes, yes. But if you're not working on your mindset, you're going to keep tripping over your own feet. So what I do is I look for ways for me to enhance my growth through a lot of mindset work. Mindset is what has made all the difference in the world. It's the reason why I consider myself to be an overcomer. I don't want to call myself a survivor. Heck no, that isn't good enough. I want to call myself an overcomer because words have power. And I know often people say, well, those are just words. It wasn't a knife. It wasn't a gun. It wasn't this. It wasn't that. Baloney. The word of God says it will cut. Words cut. And
shape your
they
behavior.
have the power.
Yeah, words shape your behavior.
Oh, heavens, yes. From the time that we're little.
Yeah, they dictate the decisions you're going to make. So yes. Words are the most toxic, can be the most toxic, the most damaging. Yeah, and people seem to have this sort of like, no, it's only words. What's your problem? Well,
sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Oh, how many times my mother said that to me.
I bet.
It is not true. And they will not break your bones, but they will hurt. They can cause damage to you in a way that literally will affect you physically.
Break your bones. Yeah.
Yes, it will break your bones in another way. Because if you don't have self-esteem, you may end up in a situation where you hurt yourself. And I'm not talking about suicide, which is obviously a thing. I'm talking about when you have a very negative mindset and you're thinking on very negative things, you will have more car accidents, you will trip more, you will fall more, you will burn yourself more. All of those things come because of our mindset. We're not thinking clearly, we're not paying attention, we don't feel good about ourselves, and we get hurt. So I try to tell people to notice what you're thinking about, whether it's negative or positive, notice what you think about. So the next step would be think about what you're thinking about. So you start off with noticing it. Celebrate when you notice something. When you say that negative thing, notice that you did it. And then say, good on me. Look what I did. I noticed. And then take the next step and think about it and say to yourself, where is that coming from? Is that coming from a place of pain? Is that coming from a sleep? Did I need to eat? What is it? Where is it coming from? And then say delete or cancel, and then take one more step and reword it into something positive. Instead of, what an idiot, what did I do that for? Say, whoa, stop, delete. You know what? I'm so smart. I'm going to work through this and it's going to be fine. Simple, 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 but you just got to get the first thing. You got to notice it, because we talk real mean to ourselves. We would never talk to our friends the way we talk to ourselves. We're so mean to ourselves sometimes. It's unbelievable. So you want to reward yourself. You want to notice it. And then take some time to take care of you. We go and go and go and go, especially when we feel like we have to make up for what happened to us, show that we're really awesome. Gotta take action and take action and take action. And suddenly we're in a hamster wheel and we're exhausted and we're grumpy and we're not eating right and we're miserable, but we're trying so hard to help so and so. We're trying so help to get this done, and we're really blocking the most important thing, which is facing ourselves, loving ourselves, caring for ourselves. And if it's possible, try to find a support group. Honestly, the first biggest thing I ever did for myself was I found out about Celebrate Recovery. When I first went, I did not feel like I belonged there. I wasn't an alcoholic. I wasn't getting beat up by my husband. I was being emotionally abused. I was being verbally abused. I was being financially abused, but I was not having any of those other things. So I was like, I don't belong here. And then they started talking about other stuff. And I went, oh,
underneath.
Rud.
Yeah.
And then I started really realizing, yeah, I belong here, because I have been living in this pain. It's just that because of my personality, I tend to be incredibly strong, and I don't come across the way they were coming across. They look beat up, and I wasn't looking beat up, and I just was better at hiding it than they were.
That's interesting what you've just said. That's really, there's two things that are interesting to me. One is the not having that sense of belonging, because one thing I have noticed with trauma survivors is that there's almost like a sense of denial that plays out what they've been through, and they're so busy looking at everybody else, what their experience is, they sort of go, oh, I do this, I've done this, I don't do it anymore, thank goodness. But they're like, oh, my experience isn't as bad as their experience, so you know, it wasn't that bad for me. So they start playing it down, start denying it, and actually it was horrific what they went through. Terrible. Right. layer on of experience. But so that plays out. And the second one has just scooted off somewhere, so I'm going to have to bring it back. Was the oh yeah, that was it. The people couldn't tell what was going on below the surface because you were so together and so strong, and you didn't look like you had you didn't look like you were in, you know, alcoholic addiction, beaten. But below the surface,
I was being abused. Below the surface, I had started off being abused at a very young age, and I have been assaulted several times, and I just learned how to feel, because that's what I was told I was supposed to do. Yeah. So that's what I did.
And I love the exercise because it's something that you can play with. It's something you can do yourself. It's the trick is, and you're right, we speak to ourselves so negatively. And I think it's part of the trauma trap. It's what keeps us in not being able to heal from our experiences. But when we start to notice language, when we start to notice how we talk to ourselves, as you've said, and we can turn it around, then we can start showing ourselves a little bit of love, a little bit of compassion, empathy. Right. And this is, I really think it's one of the biggest parts of healing, is how we talk to ourselves, how we see ourselves.
Absolutely. And the reason why, and I put this in our book, Transmuting Trauma, and I put it in there with some other things. And the reason I did was because what I put down there are all things that won't cost you a dime. Mm-hmm. The reality is many women that are in abuse situation have financial problems. You don't have to have money to do any of the things that I recommend. And the reason I do that is because I don't want anything to get in the way unless you get in your own way. Mm.
I think that is a good note to close on. Jo, thank you so much for your time. That has been really insightful to get a bird's eye view of the reality of human trafficking and how that plays out for individuals.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really want to be able to touch lives, and this is a wonderful opportunity to be able to let people know that they deserve the best, that they are worthy. There's only one them.
Yeah.
Only one you.
Yeah. Jo, how can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Whipp. They can also find me on LinkedIn, and they can find me at whipp.com, my website.
Fantastic. And is SAFE an American organization or is it worldwide?
Angela, who started it, if they want to go to SAFE, it's SAFEEUS.org. And we are definitely looking for volunteers right now because I'm spearheading a program that I'm working on. And he's actually started in Thailand.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Where I am.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not surprised.
But he sees the need in the U.S. We are actually going to be focused on Native Americans. They are the most trafficked and the least helped of all people.
Shocking. Really, really shocking. Those stats will not, they're etched in my brain like the pizza. The pizza in the 2 years, they're sort of things I can't, they're like anchors now. Like, yeah, it's good to know though, knowing these things means that you're educated. It means you know what to look out for. It means that you're more likely to keep your family safe.
Yes, and we do need to realize that can happen to anybody. We have a tendency of thinking it's the unwanted child, but we have girls that have come from wonderful families. One of them was working and going to school, taking extra credits. She was in college and high school at the same time while working. Wonderful, wonderful woman. Mm-hmm. She was taken because traffickers are very clever. Mm-hmm. He thought it was a boyfriend, but it wasn't. So,
yeah, and here's the thing. Maybe we should leave on this note, is that those stats are so high, and that's just the tipping point, as we've said. But this is someone's husband, brother, boyfriend. We know these people. They are in our circles. The predators like to be in our circles. So the more we educate ourselves, we can look out for the warning signs of what's going on. And a lot of
there are things out there to help you.
Yeah.
If you go to safeus.org, we do have information on there about what to look for. And I'm working on some other stuff right now. We're going to be getting put together. So you can always reach out and ask me questions.
Brilliant, Jo. And I'll pop the link below the video so people can get access, so they know where to go, what to look out for. But thank you. I know it is a heavy subject, and people are going to find this really hard to listen to. But stop and start, come back to it, digest a little bit, Actually, if you've got to the end of the video, you've watched the whole thing, so I'll shut up. Yeah, take care of yourself. That's what I want to say.
Yes, please
take
do.
care of take care of yourself. Reach out to somebody, have a conversation, reach out to Joe, reach out to me, reach out to whoever you need to, whoever you need to. If you're spinning out of control, just head down to A&E, that's the local hospital, or go to your own doctor and have a conversation. We've been there, we know what it's like. It's when crap hits the fan, you just automatic pilot, just get yourself in a safe space.
Right.
Okay, that's my last. I can't stop talking. That's my last one, Joe.
Well, I know it's a big subject. Thank you so very much, and I wish all of you the very best of healing.
Thank you, Joe. Take care.